Mark Gross, Autograph Magazine, here at Shore Leave with a very cool, the debonair, the famous Mr. Bob Picardo. How are you, sir?
I'm fine.
You look marvelous.
Thank you. Cool, debonair, and famous. I like that. That's better than I usually do. I'm going to remember that introduction and demand it in the future.
Well, you look great for signing autographs all weekend. This is
Thank
the last
you.
day of Shore Leave.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've interviewed you, and I actually featured you in a 3-page column of the magazine, which I gave you. You can read on the flight home and throw darts at my picture with...
No, we're not allowed to carry darts on the planes anymore.
That's right. But you did a great interview with me 2 years ago on the mag, and I want to feature you in this one as well. And
Great.
There's a lot I didn't get to cover. Stargate Atlantis. I mean, you've been an actor in millions of outstanding roles. You've been in everything. I just saw Matinee on HBO last night. You've been an amazing actor. But tell me a little bit about getting the role as Woolsey in Stargate Atlantis and you know, a little bit about that role.
I began as a recurring guest star. Actually, I began as a one-shot guest star on an episode called Heroes, Part 2, in, I think, season 6 or 7 of SG1.
SG1, sure.
And Woolsey was brought on basically as filler because they had made an episode called Heroes, which was so good and was about 10 minutes too long that instead of trimming it down, they decided to expand it into a 2-parter.
Wow.
Because they were so happy with how it turned out.
I remember that too, yeah, actually, yeah.
So I was hired to be the filler material, the new plot, and just sort of a bad guy who was brought in to investigate the tragedy of Dr. Terrell Rothery's character's death.
Yes.
Can never remember other doctor names since my doctor never had a name.
That's right.
I assume no other doctor has a name.
No. Well, you were the holographic
I was the holographic doctor, but
Voyager.
since I didn't have a proper name, I remember
a couple
no
of
other.
wannabes in some episodes, but sure.
Right. Well,
Schweitzer, you know.
That's right, exactly. I had a few names that I took on and discarded, but that's another story, another character, and another franchise. But in this episode, I was brought in basically as the bad guy who was there to assign blame for the tragedy, with my sights primarily on Don Davis' character.
Yeah, it was
General
not
Hammond.
a very good
I
character in the
was,
beginning. Yeah.
No, I was a real dick, or what can we say? A schmuck, a jerk.
I'm Jewish, a schmuck.
A schmuck. Schmuck is actually from Schmuck, which is the High German for jewels.
That's right. Yes,
so Schmuck is the family
That's
jewels.
very good. Nobody knows
Now,
that.
why would you call someone as a derogatory term the family jewels? Theoretically, we treasure those. I don't understand it.
I love that.
But in any case, I was a bad guy, and the producers liked me personally enough off camera.
Okay.
By the way, I came up and shot a rather lengthy part in one day, too, because that was all my schedule could afford at the time. Came up and did it. Joe Malazzi, went out to dinner with Joe Malazzi and Paul Muley. Seemed to like me enough that they invited me to dinner, and after we chatted that time, they decided they liked me enough to start the long, slow rehabilitation of the Woolsey character. And they started bringing me back, and the first time I was still a dick, but I was a dick who meant well.
That's right.
Because when I found out I was being manipulated by evil Senator Kinsey, I had regrets, and then I turned evidence on him.
And that was
the president.
Ronnie Cox, if I remember
Ronnie Cox,
correctly.
wonderful actor. And, of course, William Derain, another wonderful actor.
Yes.
So I was in a subplot suddenly surrounded by, all these also
and SG1 was like that, though. They had a lot of good character base and subplots around those characters. That's what I liked about SG1 as well.
So, and then in subsequent returns, Woolsey not only was a guy who was kind of a jerk but meant well, but we started to see some little character foibles in him that made him somewhat more endearing. He wasn't necessarily the bravest guy.
There was an episode where you guys were locked away and you just kind of didn't, you were in a little... I believe you were in a cell with
that was the Starship Troopers episode.
That was it. Thank you.
Where we went off-world We went off-world,
yes, sir.
And we got attacked by a bunch of digital bugs.
Yeah, because you were with Mr. Anderson in that, and you were just kind of sitting there like, what are we going to do?
Oh, no, that's a different one. That was a different one. That was the second. The first one,
right.
I was. It was really with Samantha Carter's character, where I confront her. But basically,
right.
the moment I remember that is it's Woolsey running away faster than he's pushing people out of the way to escape the bugs.
Yes, sir.
And then also with that episode on that was a Atlantis episode.
Yes,
the
sir.
one I was speaking of was SG1.
SG1,
was
correct.
called Scourge, I think. The Scourge.
I see. I don't even remember.
No, I'm not good with
But that's
titles.
okay. I mean, fans just so loved that you were able, and the producers, to take you out of SG-1 and put you in Stargate Atlantis, and just that run. We got to know that character so
Right.
much better, and you played him quite well.
Well, thank you. I did not, when they first offered me the role, which was right before Thanksgiving in 2000 and, I guess, 7.
Yes, sir.
And I had to keep it under wraps for several months.
Was
But
that hard to do?
It was hard. But when Joe Malazzi said, "How would you like to command the Atlantis expedition?" I said, "You're kidding." I said, I'd love to do it. I love working with you guys, love the cast. It's just, we've introduced the character in certain ways that make him not seem like a leader, even though he evaluates other people's leadership. He's a bit of a coward.
Yes, sir.
He has bad people skills.
Right.
He's non-military, but that turned out to be an asset because they
Yes.
wanted to return the Atlantis
Yeah.
expedition
And you
to
had
a
some
civilian
really
commander.
just well-written parts during the run from that. Now, let me ask you, I know that Stargate Atlantis has a film coming out. Will you be part of that?
I will be the commander of the movie when they make the Atlantis movie. The question is, when will the Sci-Fi Channel decide to pony up the money to make the Atlantis movie?
They can afford
Yeah,
it.
so hopefully that will happen. It's been it's obviously been postponed because
sir.
we originally talked about doing it in the spring. So I am optimistic that it will get made. I know we have a lot of loyal fans,
Good deal.
and I hope that the Sci-Fi Channel. I can't help but think that in some way it might have something to do with the success of Stargate Universe.
Of course,
But
yeah.
if the
Stargate Universe coming out, sure.
if the franchise continues to perform for the Sci-Fi Channel the way it has, then I like to think that they
Sky's
will
the limit, and
they will make
they'll
the
do
movie.
it. Let me ask you, with all the roles, and again, it would take us till after your stage talk to talk about all the roles you've been lucky to have. What was one or two of your favorite roles that you've had? Doesn't even matter in what genre. You've just played so many great characters. What were a couple of your favorites, sir?
Oh, well, I've done a lot of movies for Joe Dante. I love The Cowboy is one of my favorite characters.
Cowboy was great. That was a
Yeah.
great.
That's a
yeah.
great, unique
Yeah.
character, and I had a lot of input as to what he said and did. My stint
Well, you
on
got to roll right off in the sunset in the last scene anyway. So
right,
that was
I
you
got to
going-
right.
Yeah.
I also I loved working on China Beach. That was a great and very worthwhile, well-written television
Yes,
show
sir.
with a great cast. I loved my little pop-ups on the Wonder Years as Coach Cutlip because
Right.
the writing in that show was great, and I knew at the time that would be a classic television series that would
Sure.
live on, like Leave It to Beaver.
Yes, sir.
And as you know, science fiction has been very good to me. My lengthy stint on Star Trek was really a pleasure.
Oh my God, the
enjoyed the
holographic
other
doctor,
actors.
obviously on Voyager. We just interviewed Ethan Phillips
Yeah.
10 minutes ago, and it was great. Tell us, are we good for another 2 minutes, 3 minutes? We good on time? 2 minutes? Tell us about how you got that role as the holographic doctor.
Well, I read the script, or no, I didn't read the script. I was doing a play at the Mark Taper Forum in Los Angeles, one of the premier theaters in the LA area. I was in preview week. I had no time to read a script to audition. My agent sent me the caretaker script, and I threw it on the floor and said to my wife, "They're never going to put me in a Star Trek series." Meanwhile, an actress friend of mine, Megan Gallagher, who'd been on China Beach,
Sure.
said she was reading for Janeway, and I trusted her instincts. She said, "It's a great script. You should read it." And I said, "Well, this part, the doctor, he's kind of, he's colorless, humorless. He's a computer program." I said, "I don't get it." She said, "Well, there's a part of Neelix, very interesting." And, I read that. She was right. I loved it. So I turned down my audition for the doctor. I read for Neelix.
Wow.
And I read very well for Neelix, and I went down to the wire for the role. I went so far as to go in secretly and meet with Mike Westmore to see what the makeup would be like, because
Yes,
I'd
sir.
done heavy makeup roles in Legend, Explorers, The Howling,
My God,
and
that's
I
right.
thought, I don't know if I could live 7 years doing heavy
That
makeup.
kind of, yeah.
So I went and met, found out about the makeup, decided I might be able to live with it. I auditioned. It was between me and two other unknown. I didn't know who my competition was, because Ethan Phillips and I were already old friends.
Yes, sir.
Didn't get the part. Found out I didn't get it. They called back and said, "We love his voice. There's something about him. Would he consider reading for the doctor?" And I said to my agent, "I don't get the joke, but I'll take a crack at it." I went in. I'm the only actor who only read once.
Wow.
I was very irreverent. because I ad-libbed, which you never do on Star Trek, certainly not at a network test. And I'm convinced that I got the job by channeling DeForest Kelley, because I made a joke, I made a closing ad-lib joke that made the room explode into laughter, and I think that's why they hire me. And the joke was, after my final scripted line, which is, "I believe someone has failed to terminate my program," I took a lengthy, deadpan look around everyone in the room and said, "I'm a doctor, not a nightlight." And they all laughed, and I got hired.
Outstanding. Good for you.